No one can deny that Henry V is a patriotic play, a celebration of an English military triumph. It's clear from the contexts we've been exploring this week that in some ways it's looking back to the triumph of the Armada. It's written a decade later, when the Earl of Essex is fighting in Ireland and things aren't going so well for the English on the battlefield. So looking back to the victory of Henry V at Agincourt, and perhaps also symbolically looking back to the Armada victory, is good for national morale. But as we've also seen, the picture is greatly complicated. Whereas the old play of the famous victories was straightforwardly patriotic, Shakespeare's representation of King Henry V is constantly inflected by the fact that much of his audience would have also seen the Henry IV plays, where we see the king in his youth, in his phase of rebellion, and in his friendship with Sir John Falstaff, who, as we have seen, has died of a broken heart after the king has rejected him, and who has in a sense been replaced on the field of France by the figure of Ancient Pistol, a kind of poor man's Falstaff, who at the end of Henry V is ritually humiliated by being forced to eat a leek. Henry is also cool, perhaps brutal, in relation to another of his companions from his youthful life, Bardolph, one of Falstaff's close companions who we met in the Henry IV plays, comes to France. He steals silver from a church, and the king immediately makes sure that he's executed. The fact that Bardolph is his friend doesn't stop him. He knows you need discipline in an army. If you start ransacking churches, you're going to be in trouble. But a number of other details do raise some very serious questions about King Henry. Consider the killing of the French prisoners. This is emphasised very strongly in the play. There's two particular passages that speak of the prisoners taken on the battlefield of Agincourt being killed. This was expressly against the laws of arms, the laws of battle. Shakespeare's age was a period where there were many wars, many battles, and there were handbooks about the art of war. They were mostly practical. I've got several of them bound here together. There's an English translation of Niccolò Machiavelli's The Art of War, 1588. From the same year, a translation of another Italian text, which is called Most Brief Tables to Know Readily How Many Ranks of Footmen Armed with Corselets Go to the Making of a Just Battle. Next, a very easy and approved way to arm a battle with harquebuses. A harquebuse or arquebuse was a kind of long gun, very like the one that we've just been looking at. And then also, again, from 1588, a different treatise, but bound up together, certain ways for the ordering of soldiers in battle and the setting of battles, and moreover how to make saltpeter, gunpowder, and diverse sorts of fireworks or wild fire with other things pertaining to the wars. Gunpowder, as we've seen, whether it's used in a cannon, in a musket, or indeed by the miners who try to undermine the enemy lines. Gunpowder, crucial to warfare at the time. There are other treatises as well. The year before, there was a volume called The Art of War, a lengthy treatise by an Englishman called William Gerard. But what all these treatises on war have in common is that when it comes to the question of how you deal with prisoners, there are many details about the process by which a prisoner can be ransomed. It was indeed part of the economics of warfare that if a soldier caught a prisoner himself, he was entitled to the ransom money. It's a form of soldier's pay. But what is made clear in all these treatises is that the prisoners and the wounded should be looked after. They can be captured, ransomed, but they should not be killed in cold blood. And yet, King Henry does order the killing in cold blood of the French prisoners. At one moment in the play, it's justified on the grounds that the French have also broken the rules of war by killing the boys and the luggage. That's to say, the baggage handlers and the page boys, the men and boys behind the lines. It's said that King Henry has ordered the killing of the prisoners in response to that, an eye for an eye, so to speak. But in fact, there has been a previous reference to the killing of the prisoners, which comes before the king has heard about the killing of the boys and the luggage. The great 18th century critic and editor, Dr. Johnson, said the king would seem to be very angry. He orders the killing of the prisoners twice. And maybe there's some kind of anomaly there in the surviving text of the play, but it's clear that Shakespeare wants to stress that there is a brutal aspect to King Henry. He will do anything he can in order to win. It's not perhaps a coincidence that one of these treatises on the art of war was written by Niccolò Machiavelli, the Italian theorist of realpolitik, of the idea that in the end what matters in politics is power, retaining power, it's strength, it's getting your way, and whatever it takes, you've just got to do it. King Henry is a holy man, but is the war a just war? Shakespeare doesn't give you an answer to that question. He poses the question. And this is true of so many of Shakespeare's plays. They explore the great political, social, historical, human issues of the day, but they don't give answers. And every time you think you've got an answer, every time you think a character is fully justified, you get a different point of view, a point of view that keeps the debate open, that ensures that when the audience leaves the theatre, or the reader or student finishes the text, they're left with things to debate, things to discuss, questions that are left open, a hunger to go back and see the play again, or read it again and see it from a different perspective. And that is one of the key sources of the endless survival of Shakespeare, the way that his works keep speaking to different ages and different cultures, the way that whilst he is deeply embroiled in the debates, the issues, the history of his own time, he also speaks to our time for all time.